cardiac and vascular as your grade sheet, and most of you did a great job, but just in the corrections area, if it says comments, it should say corrections. That last, where you tell us what you did or why you gave yourself a 3 or a 2 or whatever, or 4. Remember that that's the area where you're talking about what you should have done, not what you actually did. I tried, I didn't. Okay, so what will you do the next time to make this 3 or 4? Change my dabs, move to a different window. Whatever it was that you feel wasn't appropriate, optimize with the whatever, right? Instead of what you did, because we can kind of see what you did on the image. We don't need you to narrate that part. We just need you to think about how to make the image better. So what I saw overall, which is normal at this point, is not being on axis and not angling superior enough or inferior enough for certain fanning motions. So just make sure you're aware of that. And when you're in your parasternal short axis, or your RVIT or your RVOT, where you're doing the sweeping, fanning, you need to focus on, well, you don't need to, I recommend you focus on one structure and watch it disappear. So for example, if you're in the parasternal long axis, let me pull one up on the demo. If you're in the parasternal long axis and then you start to sweep superiorly to get to the RVOT, I always concentrate here. And I try to move this more centered, so I see more of the ace in the aorta because of the way they cross, remember? And then I start moving superiorly, watching this whole thing disappear. If I see any of the aorta or the aortic valve in the picture, I know I'm not superior enough with my beam, okay? Then I come back to parasternal long, and then I go inferior to my RVIT, right? And I'm still watching this to make sure this disappears. Some of you are kind of in that middle, not quite enough, and so hopefully you'll recognize that when you go back and look at your studies. And then likewise in your parasternal short, just not angling all the way up. If you feel like you're all the way angled superiorly and you're still not seeing your aortic valve at the base or your tricuspid or pulmonic valve, what should you do?
Angle up the rib, go up a rib.
Yeah, go up a different intercostal space, move a little closer, maybe a little further. Everybody's heart is a little different, so there's no one shop solution for everyone, but don't be afraid to move around a little bit. Any questions on your views? Okay, I didn't look at the walls too well. How'd you guys do on the walls? Okay, very good, all right. Okay, so Tuesday we have our in-house quiz for anatomy recognition. This weekend, that's my homework, getting it electronic. So it'll probably be in Brightspace. Does everyone have a computer they can bring, or do I need to try to get a computer lab to do that? A computer or a tablet that works with Brightspace testing that you've tried already. Because what we don't want is to get here and you're like, my stuff doesn't work, right? Now I know Wi-Fi is a little sketchy in here sometimes, is that correct? Or has it been okay?
All right.
It's been okay? So you think it'll be okay to take it in here? Anybody not have access? If you don't, let me know and I can look for a computer room. Okay, so you can email me if you don't think it's gonna work for you. All right. But let's get to the demo. I wanted to add a few things for newbies because Ashley's experience, and we're all experienced, we do a lot of things that we don't necessarily think about or need to do clinically, but as you are learning, there's some things that we want you to focus on. Particularly, you'll have enough time when you get in the field to do things differently. Okay, so this is a nice on-axis view. Can't read my own handwriting. This one, what do you think about this image? What would you change if you could? Rotate it that way. As far as the B mode, well, we're on the color, so that's another thing. When we're looking at color, we want to focus on an on focus 2D image, which for this person, that may be the best window, right? We don't see a lot of apex. We probably could bring this over a little bit if we had room, but that's what I want you to understand. Everything that we do as sonographers, the physicians don't see. They don't see all the trials and tribulations of trying different windows and things like that. They don't want to see that. They just want to see the end result. But as you are learning, as your instructors, we have to see that you tried, if that makes sense. So if you're doing different windows and things like that, if you are truly on axis and you're like, this is the best I have, as we move through the program, you'll put ATT, attempt, if you can't get something, because we need to know at least you tried, okay? So I'm not asking that of you now, but I want you to start thinking about all the things that the physicians and your instructors don't see that you're doing when you're manipulating. I think this is a pretty good 2D though. Something I would like to see different on the color. As DeWitt talks about, you may want to elongate this box. That's her recommendation on all your images. Because we're not really looking at anything up here, on this image it's not necessary, but we want to hone this in just a little bit. We're at 16 Hertz. You really should be 20 Hertz or higher on your color. And how do we get a higher frame rate? With color Doppler. The width of the box. So sometimes with some people you have to do one over your mitral valve clip and then one of your aortic valve clip, all right? You don't want it too thin that I can't see before and after flow, but if there was something going on with this flow over here that's turbulent, I wouldn't be able to pick it up, right? So I would have to kind of focus over here for my mitral and then focus over here for my aortic. Does that make sense? I know she was doing it for the sake of time and to show you, but when you're doing yours, you want to have at least 20 Hertz for your color frame rate on every image, all right? The next thing that I want you to think about for your RVO IT, pretty, right? So again, a little wide, we got 18 Hertz, and we've got our color box kind of over into the tissue. Now I know why Ashley did this, because she's trying to see if there's any shunts going on, but you're not there yet, right? So just make sure that you're actually seeing the entire valve. So maybe move this over just a little bit so we're getting all the flow in the left atrium. Does that make sense? Oops, that didn't work. And then the next thing I wanted to talk about, okay. So we're here, and then we're gonna put our spectral line in. Now, if we take our imaginary line and we draw it here, what are we cutting? Oh, you cannot see, can you? Oh, you can see. What are we cutting across? Are we going through the leaflets, or are we going on top of this leaflet? On top. That means we're not properly aligned for CW, right? So CW coming, that's why this looks like this, noisy and messy, because you're coming through this leaflet and it's hitting there, and the openings, let me zoom this up, is here. So what does that mean as a sonographer I have to do? Scooch it, right? Because we can't move this, so I gotta try to scooch this over to a line there, and if I can't get it, I'm not gonna measure it. I'm gonna try a different view. Does that make sense? Okay? So we always wanna, when we're CW, we gotta think about that whole line being aligned through the valve leaflets. When it's PW, it doesn't matter. Why? Because it's only taking, Who was saying? It's at the exact place where you put it. So it's not gonna sample before and after that line, that little hamburger. Well, it used to be a hamburger, but now it's two parallel lines, I think. Right? Okay, so make sure you're thinking about that. Zoom out. Okay, beautiful, beautiful. So now we've got this. This is great color Doppler. We're a little bit over here into the tissue. That's okay, but again, we're at 18, so you can hone that in a little bit to get up to 20 Hertz and see what's going on with this flow here. What is it doing? Hitting the wall, but is it hitting the wall? It could be, but why is it yellow and pull that? It's A-listing. Yeah, so the scale is not high enough. How's the scale, how does the scale affect your color flow?
Higher color scales are going to display higher velocities.
Yeah, it's gonna change your mean velocity and your, PRF, right? Your post-repetition frequency, allow you your Nyquist limit. So if I'm getting A-listing wraparound, that's not really chaotic turbulence, that's that wraparound. That means these are the higher red blood cells, and it is because it's hitting those walls, right? So if it was center stream, we probably would wanna bump this up. Now, on our machines, this is set based on the ECG. So wherever your ECG is, it's got some algorithm and it bases it off the beats per minute, and it automatically will adjust give you a starting point for your color scale, right? Sometimes we have to increase it, sometimes we have to decrease it, depending if we're looking at right hearts or left hearts or higher velocities, but it does a great job off of the ECG if you have a good ECG reading, all right? Okay, the other thing was, so what can you tell me about this picture? Looks pretty good? I like it. The only thing that I can tell you is because the baseline is low, we got 180 up here and 60 here, and when we're measuring, we want to bring our baseline up when flow is below it, because if the flow, it's almost off the screen, right? So you want to adjust your baseline up, and you want to make sure you see the entire complex, so it's not wrapping around and A-listing also, and it's not so tiny, right? So you want to bring this up and make sure that your scale is appropriate. If your peak velocity is around 70, you don't need your scale to be up to 200, right? Because it's gonna look really small. So starting to integrate how to adjust these is another thing. What about this alignment? Good or bad? What do we use, a PW or CW? CW. It looks pretty good to me. Looks like it's going through. So what do we do when we grade you? This is why it takes so long. Where's the flow? Where are the leaflets? Let me go back to B mode. Okay, so that's why it's important that you do it sequentially. Show me your B mode, put your color on, put your spectra on. Don't move your picture, because if you move your picture, all bets might be off. You might not be in the same window, and that's how we grade. Okay, her B mode, okay, I see where the line should be. Okay, then I put the color on, go to your color picture, then I go, because I want to make sure you're in the right spot. And sometimes this reference picture is hard to tell that, right? Okay? All right, so that looks good. Great, loving it.
Do you prefer that we do 2 separate pictures, or these colors compare?
For,
Like before we throw color on
it depends on if you have good alignment, and she did one, and I'm gonna show you that, right? Not everyone will give you good 2D and good color, because one is more focused, parallel,
Yeah.
so it depends. That's a judgment call, depending on what you're getting. All right, what's my next one? To save time. P-base. So these all look good. So we're up at our base, and we've got a little bit of artifact here from the wall, nothing you can do about that. But we can see our leaflets really nice, really nice. Not so much in the pulmonic valve, but okay, we got 2 or 3, not bad, right? And then we're gonna add our color. She starts in her aortic valve. You can start in the aortic valve, then go to your tricuspid, then go to your pulmonic. You can start at tricuspid, aortic, pulmonic, aortic, however you do it consistently on every patient, because if you don't have a systematic way of doing it, if you get into some disease, you'll be, forgot where you were and what you've already done. Now we're looking at tricuspid. Froze it. Did y'all talk about that picture? No?
Yeah.
Okay. And then we're going over pulmonic. And then she came back to tricuspid. Don't do that. Okay? So how are we grading you? I'm looking at your tricuspid. I'm trying to see if I draw my imaginary line, will it go through here? Probably. Now I went back here. I'm sorry, I went there, then I went here. Now I need to do my spectral after my color. Because what happens, I've gone over to Pomonic and adjusted for the Pomonic window. Remember we didn't see it well in B mode? But look how pretty we see it now, because she did some adjustments. But now she's gonna go back to tricuspid, and I don't know if she's in that same window that we saw with color and we saw with B mode. So always finish your valve. B mode, color, spectral. Move to the next valve. B mode, color, spectral. Okay, does it make sense? Okay. All right. Pretty Pomonic though, but I didn't get a good pretty 2D of Pomonic, right? This might have been a good place where you could have did color compare, right? Because that Pomonic looks good there and you didn't see it on your other one, so I would have probably put the color compare on just to show the B mode. Make sense? I guess not, y'all ain't saying that. Okay, so here's the tricuspid and there's the Pomonic. So make sure you do it in sequence. All right, in the apicals. Good. Making sure you narrow your colors, looking pretty good. We got some color overlap here, and again, she's looking at interatrial septums, which is what we do in the field, so that's not bad. What's our frame rate? 19, close enough, right? Seeing nice, pretty colors here, laminar flow. We got our pulse wave, looks good. We're at the tips of the leaflets when they're open, and we got our E to A, we got a nice window. When we come into our spectral, at the same window and same view, we've got our CW that's a little bit noisier, right? Because we're picking up all the velocities and we did our tracing here. These are a little tougher to trace. We've got some noise here. I would move my baseline up just a tad so I can see what's going on here, but this is perfectly fine here. What's going on with this view? What are we doing with this one? I think I heard it. It's for shortness. Why should we do that? Atria and or right heart. Yep, so it looks like she jumped over to the right heart. She's showing some of that tricuspid. She did her color compare here, just to give a good view. Sometimes, see how we see the mitral valve opening up, but we don't see the tricuspid? We wanna try to angle enough that we see those leaflets open up, if we can. And then we've got our PW across our tricuspid. Why does it look like this and not as pretty as the mitral? Where's our line? On top of the leaflet? Yeah, because when we draw a line, look where it's gonna hit. It's not hitting this way. See the difference? Okay. Now we can't always get there 100%. But we need to try. We need to try to move our heart to get a more focused spectral Doppler alignment. We can't move the bottom region of interest for color. Like the color sometimes is perpendicular, but it doesn't allow us to really, I mean, we can move it a little bit, but we can't change it this way or that way, necessarily. So sometimes we don't have the best color alignment because of the limitations of the machine, but with our spectral Doppler, we do need to get those velocities. Why am I counting these velocities and these angles?
That's what tells you if there's something wrong.
Pressure gradients. And who's the gold standard for pressure gradients? Cath lab. And who are we measured against? Cath lab, right? So we gotta have the best alignments we can. All right, pretty. Now we got two views for this aortic valve that we can do, and this is one of them. We see nice flow coming across here. What measurement is this? We're using PW. So what are we measuring? We're measuring right here, correct? Mm-hmm. That means that's the left ventricular outflow tract before the valve. Mm-hmm. So that's the LVOT velocity. We can either do we can either do a tracing here to get a VTI, or we could do a point, maximum point to get a peak velocity. All right. If we did a point measurement, it would give us a peak pressure gradient off of that. So if this is about 80 centimeters per second of flow, we could throw that into Bernoulli, modified Bernoulli, right? 4V squared, 4 times V squared, and then we could see roughly what the pressure gradient is. If we do a VTI, it's a little different calculation, and we gotta rely on the machine to do that, right? Okay. If we do a tracing of a complex on our machines, the way they're set up, it'll give you both a peak and a mean velocity and pressure gradient, okay? As you see here, right? So she did a tracing, now she's changed over to continuous wave. Even though we're coming here, if you look at this image, and this is another thing, I'm assuming you haven't moved. So if I put this line through here, oops, sorry, let me make it bigger. If I put my imaginary line through here, I'm gonna come here, hit a little bit of that, and hit this wall instead of coming out this way. Is that making sense? So you gotta scooch that hard a little bit if you can. And now, it's great for PW. When I get to CW, this line is hitting a whole bunch of stuff other than flow. So that means this may not be the fastest moving up, and I know it's not because we saw those higher flows in yellows, okay? But for the sake of demonstration and your first time, this would be acceptable, okay? This is great. We have our tracing, which we call the VTI. What does VTI stand for? Some books will say TVI, some say VTI, time velocity interval or velocity time interval, right? It's taking into account all the red blood cells that are moving at different velocities within this complex versus just the fastest, which is the peak velocity, okay?
So we should be angling the heart differently.
Yes, for Doppler, because Doppler needs a parallel and B mode is more of a perpendicular alignment, all right? So your VTI is giving us a V max, velocity max. So it took that max from here at 96.1 centimeters. The V mean is 73. Now we know the mean should be less than the max, math, that we all love so much. And then from those two, we got a max pressure gradient of 4 millimeters of mercury and a mean pressure gradient of 2. So if we did that 4V squared on this 96.1 centimeters, what would that be in meters? 96.1 centimeters would be what in meters?
1.6.
Yeah, right? So you can do it either way, tomatoes, tomatoes. I mean, 96 squared is a little bit much, right? But you know, you can do it in your calculator. And then you can do it times, square and then times 4. And get, did you guys? Yeah, and for your modified Bernoulli, it's doing it for you. 4 millimeters. Is this normal? Which valve are we on? What's the normal range of normalcy for?
3.8 to 4, 3.8 to 5.8?
5, yep, so it's normal. See that? That's what we're doing, we're correlating these pictures on tests with ranges of normalcy. I give you this picture, I say, is this normal? Is this within the normal range, right? Okay. All right. Now let's see, beautiful 2. One thing about this, it's a little bit fatty here, but it's coming in and out, so she might be able to move to a different intercostal space or angle a little bit more superiorly up towards the LA, but it's beautiful for looking at the LV. She's probably more LV focused right here. Now, we see a little bit more of the left atrium with the color, and she's gonna put pulse wave across there, beautiful. And she did some CW just because, kicks and giggles, nice alignment. This one, so having that real fat LA, so you can get those atrial volumes is important. There is a measurement in the package that is for ESV, and I'm not sure, it doesn't look like she chose that one. It's a different one that we'll be doing, so I have to show you that for your proficiency. But was this a 3-point, or did she have to trace manually? She probably traced manually, do you remember? Yeah. I think that ESV has the 3 points, so I'll look at that today with your lab, I'll be there. But it's nice because you're tracing inside here, and then you wanna cut it, it'll automatically cut off, you don't wanna bring your line all the way over, did she talk about that? So you'll go from annulus to annulus, it should auto-close itself, and then it'll draw the length, and you can move this, if the length is longer here, you can move it and then hit your enter, and it will give you your volume in your area, in your length. Okay? Alright, we're almost done. Almost done. And then we're gonna go to our A3, and she did CW and PW, and the CW, again, we gotta watch our alignment, cause we're hitting that leaflet, right? Sometimes we can't help it, but the mitral valve is the valve that we see in just about every view. So we've got a lot of options for mitral valve. So this really isn't the star of this show. This one is for the aortic valve, because the A3 and the A5 are the only 2 parallel flow jets we get for spectral Doppler and color Doppler, right? So that's beautiful. And then again, hitting a little bit of this wall, but we're getting a little profile here. So we wanna try to align it through the valve, all right? Questions on that? She did these with you? She showed you chroma? Okay.
They both kind of showed us like some different tools that we wouldn't necessarily use right now.
Right.
At the end.
Yep, I saw that, I was like, cool, yay. So it showed you chroma, showed
Color
you.
they prefer. It was like color they prefer.
Color they prefer,
Yeah. Kelly
Yeah.
prefers rainbow or.
Yeah, there's a lot of them in there. Showed you the, method of disc for systole, diastole, and then systole, and then they showed you the X-plane, which is what I told you we weren't gonna be doing, and I said, forget you know it, but it's pretty cool when it works. One thing about X-plane, if you are off axis and you can't get it, it's gonna be off axis when you do it individually, right? ASC recommends you do it in the biplane, because you know you're in the same orthogonal plane and your volumes will match up better. If I do it manually, my 4 chamber, and I measure, and then I turn to my 2 and I have to move to a different window, that's a different orthogonal plane, and you're not really measuring apples to apples necessarily. Some labs are okay with that, some labs are not. So it really depends on what the direction of that lab is. All right, cool. Any questions on this? Nice fat, juicy, good stuff. No? We're good? Okay. All right, so just some things to think about when we're talking about Doppler, which we're switching into right now. Talk about Doppler. All right. I can use my hand again to do that. I don't know what these things do. Does that sound? I like this sound. So what are we thinking about Doppler? Did anybody get to play with Doppler on Tuesday? A little bit? Okay. Alright. Biggest thing is making sure you are aware of those Doppler angles. Because the angle inclination is important, it goes into the Doppler equation, and that can definitely will affect your velocities. So here we have our objectives. I think I might have changed them a little bit after I did yours, I can't remember. I looked at them and said, oh, this is more like what I wanna do. So in color Doppler, you need to, make sure you understand how to read your color map, the difference between AOC and turbulence, and, identifying normal flow patterns across every valve. And then same thing with the spectral Doppler, the difference between when we use pulse, continuous, non-imaging CW, and identifying normal spectral waveforms. All right, so we have 2 types, we really have more than 2, but right now we're focusing on 2 types of Doppler modalities, spectral and color flow Doppler. Why we do Doppler? We want to assess for if there's any abnormalities with the valve. We want to check the function of the flow. So the anatomy and the physiology are the two things that we're big on with echo. The anatomy is mostly identified by the 2D, right, imaging, and the physiology or the hemodynamics of the blood utilizes the Doppler. We can also see congenital defects like shunts, interatrial septal defects, interventricular septal defects. All right, so when we're talking about spectral, we want to make sure that we know the direction and velocity of flow is going in the correct direction, being able to detect those mean and peak pressure gradients, normal laminar flow from abnormal or eccentric or turbulent flow, and how those patterns will look. And that depends on if we're doing pulse wave or continuous wave, which we just saw in the demo. The continuous wave is always gonna look a little choppy, not really have those clean windows, because it's going through and sampling all of the velocities across that line of sight. Whereas the PW, you're gonna put it right directly where you want it at a specific velocity, or specific depth. And we're gonna be able to identify precise velocities there. We do have more alisine that will occur at a lower velocity. Usually anything over 2 with PW is going to start to ALIS, so you'll have to switch over to either continuous wave or high PRF. Your book talks about high PRF. Did anybody pick up on what that really was?
Uses like 2 sample gates.
Yeah, and on some machines you can get more than that. So it's gonna give you sample spots all along. You can have 2 different sample spots instead of just 1 or 3. And that's used a lot with high velocities and peds, but we'll use it sometimes with adults. We're like, we still want it right here, but it'll kind of diminish and allow us to, the alisine and allow us to get higher frequency ranges. Non-imaging PDOF. So the PDOF or pencil probes are on the machines. We try to put them behind the machine because the GIs don't pay them any attention and they get knocked off, and they too are fragile, and if they fall on the ground or anything, they have crystals in them and they can break. So it is your responsibility, CDs, to protect those at all costs. Your mission, and you don't have a choice to choose it or not, is to protect the PDOFs, right? Keep them out of their way, make sure that the cords are out of their way, don't get all tangled up with everything else, because they never use them, ever. All right, okay. We're gonna talk a little bit more about PDOFs and start using them next semester. So the differences between PW and CW, does someone wanna take a stab at explaining? What's the biggest difference?
One's on and off, one's continuous.
You got it, you already know, right? Have y'all done this in physics yet? Oh, good. Oh, that's good correlation. All right. So basically, pulse wave has that narrow band of velocity, so that cleaner window, continuous, is gonna have that filled-in window because you're looking at a wider range. The continuous wave, always continuously sending and receiving. The pulse wave has that round trip time. It's gonna go to that particular depth that you tell it to. It's gonna have dead time, they call it, where it comes back, or travel time back to the machine, and so it's a little bit more delayed. And pulse wave sends out packets of information, pulse packets, to where you're going. For this one, it's just continuously sending and receiving. And then we got our PDOF down there, our non-imaging. Well, we know when we should use one over the other with pulse wave. I got ahead of myself, right? When you want things at a specific depth or not. What are some advantages of the PDOF?
Lower frequency, so
For small spaces.
Yeah, lower frequency, smaller spaces, you get those intercostal spaces better. What else in here? Is that it? Okay. All right, so optimizing our Doppler. Garbage in is garbage out. If you have a crappy grayscale, you may have a good alignment, but you may not get flows as well. So you have to really adjust to whatever mode you're doing. If you're doing V mode, adjust for that. If you're doing color or spectral Doppler, you have to adjust for that as well. The sample volume, want to keep it small as possible, but not too small that you're not picking up the flows you need. Of course, the larger the sample volume, the more velocities within, and it could distort what you're trying to do. You want to get those velocities that are center stream. Angle correcting, we've talked about this ad nauseam. Some other of the controls that I just showed you on the, with the demo, your baseline, your scale, your sweep speed, the invert for your color, which we should not ever do in cardiac, right? We never invert our color, and we never move our Doppler from zero, our spectral Doppler from, let's not the 45 to 60 like in vascular, it always stays at zero. Some tips. Examine each blood flow on several different imaging planes to be more accurate. We average, so most of the times when we're doing, say we're looking at mitral valve in the forward chamber, and we get a velocity of 100 centimeters per second and 110 centimeters per second on the second cardiac cycle. Then we go to our two chamber and we get 80 centimeters per second and 75. It's gonna average all of those together to put into any formulas or calculations. Unless we tell it only use the highest. So we have some calculations that'll only use the highest, and some it will average. Remember, CFI is a 2D technique for evaluating 3D blood flow, sending those pulses out. You will miss abnormal flow signals if your beam is not in the same plane as the flow, as indicated here. Right? So we want to get good habits down while we all have normal velocities to practice. And then we know that color Doppler is pulse wave technology. It's superimposing color over the anatomic B mode or 2D image. And it's giving us information Doppler shift versus time. So you know all this, so I'm gonna fly through it because you're doing it and you have it. I'm trying to see if there's anything. We talked about the patient's beats per minute, blood pressure. All right. You know about maps, right? You understand the difference between variance maps and velocity maps? Anybody having a question about that? These are velocity maps, right? And you can see the difference. The highest velocities positively towards the transducer, negatively away from the transducer here. This is a variance map. And we're seeing, we read it from slowest flows, the fastest flows, to more turbulent flows in a different color. Sometimes it's all green over here, sometimes the reds and the yellows, right? So the highest flows. So understanding what type of map is being used and how to read that map is important. Any questions on that? All right, that's another example. All right. So again, having those color focused views, which we used to call off-axis 2D images or 2D views. We still do sometimes, actually. Tips, suggestions. Concentrate on one chamber at a time, concentrate on one part of the cardiac cycle at a time. Use your loop memory to slow it down, to freeze it and go frame by frame. It's gonna be really important when you're learning about regurgitant jets, and your eyes just have to learn to adapt to the fast moving red blood cells and to delineate normal flows from abnormal flows. To start thinking about, I just don't see what's going on there. You can always freeze and scroll through, or you can acquire the loop, and then on the loop, on the touch panel, it has a slow down to 50% or 75% or whatever, but you can slow down the rate. All right, so let's get into it. P likes RVIT and RVOT. Now I snatched these images from a website, also Community College. And I know the chair there, so I know she wouldn't mind. I actually did their one or two of their site visits for reaccreditation some years ago. I love that they have this, and we've been saying for years we were gonna do it, we haven't done it. So why recreate the wheel, right? It's already out there. So what are we gonna see in this peristernal window, and these views in this peristernal window? What do we expect to see with color and spectral?
The way the blood's flowing through the valves?
Right, but more, let me see, let me be more, which structures, which flow are we concentrating on? Which chambers and which structures in the peristernal wall? Mitral valve, aortic valve, yep, and the flow in those chambers, right? So we're gonna look at, the LV, the LA, and even the interventricular septum, right? Because we wanna see if there's any shunting of blood going across there, eventually. What about for the RVIT? Which structures? Tricuspid, and the chambers, don't forget your chambers, right? So yes, that's the valve, but you gotta remember where's the end result. So for RVOT, we're gonna see the RV as well as the main pulmonary artery. For RVIT, right atrium going across the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle, and also the RVOT, right? So think about the direction that the blood should be going, in relation to that view. Right? So where should our region of interest or our sample color box, same terms, same thing, just different terms, be placed? Again, depending on what we're looking at. If we wanna see flow across the mitral valve, we wanna, make sure we can see before and after, and the same thing with the aortic, before and after. If flow is normal before it goes through the valve, if flow is normal after it goes through the valve. All right? Okay, so, this, do you guys have these moving videos in your PowerPoint? Yes? Okay, you do. If you download it, right? If you download it, I think you have it. This one kinda goes through everything, so I have to be careful how I do it, cause Janice didn't do. I think she started. So if we look here, we see the colors. What color should it be going through the, across the valves, right? Think about that. So let's go back. What color should the, color be? Oops, I don't want to do it without the thing, because I'm in this mode. Let me come out and do this. In peristernal wall. Across the mitral. What colors do we expect to see? Reds and blues? Going from the LA to the LV.
Red, kind of going towards the transducer.
Okay, and what about the aorta? Okay, are we parallel or perpendicular to flow in this view? So it might be anything, right? Because we're not even evaluating for direction, we're just evaluating for qualitative information. Is there flow, right? Because we're not parallel, so we can't really, what was that? What's going on?
Someone in the hallway.
Oh, yeah.
Oh!
That's weird.
Oh, gee. Okay, so here we got like a little mixture going on, because we're really kind of this way. Now, if they have a boot shape, you might see more red and more blue going away, right? Or if you're off axis. But if they've got that nice little line 2D image, your colors may be anything, and that's okay, because we're not really evaluating for the quantity or the direction of flow in this view for that, for those valves. All right, let's keep moving to the RVOT. What color do we expect to see across the valve with the RVOT? Blue. Why?
It's going away from the
Going away
transducer.
from the transducer. I don't know if that's the next one or not. No, we did TV. The TV? No. There we go. See that? Coming across. And it's the same when we get to the base as well for RVOT or for pulmonic. So flow is coming down away from the transducer, but then in our RVIT, what should we see? Red. Why red? toward it's coming from, what's this chamber? Right atrium, tricuspid valve, right ventricle. So it's going up towards the transducer. If it wasn't, during what part of the cardiac cycle should we see that flow? Diastole, because the valve is open. So we should see flow moving from here to there during diastole. When the valve is closed, we still may have some red in here, right? But now things are happening over here in the ventricle. So you have to know your timing of that also. All right, any questions on those? Okay. Y'all look bored, y'all already know this? Oh, okay. Tired, it's been a long week. Y'all awfully quiet today. Don't make me get out the chicken and throw it at you. Ooh. All right, so when we talk about the RVOT, you wanna make sure you place your color box over the valve and center it so nice and elongated so we see as much of that color as we can from top to bottom. Cause we got that RVOT, we got that pulmonic valve somewhere in here, and then we got the main pulmonary artery. And if we're really lucky, we'll have the bifurcation to the right and left pulmonaries, right? So we see that flow there that we saw before. They're getting ahead of us. Let me see all that. And then we're gonna come over here and we're gonna look at our flow across the valve with our spectral. It's a nice, pretty open waveform, right? And so I'm probably using continuous or pulse. Thank you, pulse. And then they switch over to continuous. Can you see the difference? Pulse, continuous. Okay, yes? And then you also can see with this continuous, the valve clicks. That's when you know you're in the valve. We look for those. Now, I'm not gonna be judging you on that right now.
That extra line?
That line is the valve closure. Sometimes we'll see the valve opening click here, and sometimes you can hear it sometimes. And that's the valve opening if it's here, and the valve closure. And you wanna measure, when we measure inside of that, hands just don't have to be cold, right? We don't wanna be all the way over here, cause this is pulmonic flow. So what part of the cardiac cycle is this? Systole. This is diastole. We don't be over here in diastole. This is isovolumic. Relaxation or contractility. Which phase of isovolumic? Before the pulmonic valve opens. Contraction. Contraction. So we want to be on the inside. That modal flow. You've heard that word modal flow. That means where the majority of the red blood cells are consistent. These are stragglers. See these stragglers down? We don't want to measure all the way down there. We want to do this nice, bright, modal flow tracing. Does that make sense? Okay, that's where we would trace. All right. Moving on. All right. And then we talked about being able to see that, the cusp, the valve, the flow going through the cusp. All right. Peristernal short, all views. Which structure should we be focusing on in the views? Let's start with the P-sacs at the base. Which structure should we be focusing on at the base with Doppler?
All the valves?
Oh, yeah. Well, not all of them at the base.
Well,
3 of the 4,
Yeah.
right. And then we got the mitral valve level for the mitral valve, right? It's all special, doing its own thing. And these are the flows that we want to concentrate on at our base. See the order they did it, a little different than what Ashley did it, tomatoes, as long as we all get it done, right? Alright, there's the mitral level. What did you say?
It sounds like one person
That's
on
like
the phone,
eating.
and then it sounds like.
Someone's on the speakerphone out there, and it's like.
Wow. Okay, so we know, we know which structures we're focusing on in each one. And we know how to optimize it. Again, you wanna make sure that your color box is across all those structures that we're focusing on. Apical views. What structure should we be visualizing in our apical 4 view?
All four chambers. Right atrium, left atrium, left ventricle, right ventricle.
For color?
Mitral
Mitral tricuspid and the chambers, and I think I actually left off the chambers, I probably was late. But you wanna make sure you're looking at that mitral valve inflow, that tricuspid valve inflow on a focused view, and your tricuspid valve leaflets, as well as your mitral valve leaflets. So on this one, I think they do some kind of, focused, tricuspid focus, let's look at it and see. So this is a nice mitral valve, and we got our A5 in here as well. That's a tricuspid focus view, or right heart focus view. Let's go back, you see how they changed that angle for that color? So if we went back to our 4 chamber and we put color on, look where it would be. Imagine putting that color, you gonna let me do it? You gonna let me do it? Yay! Alright, so we got nice alignment, parallel to flow on the mitral. If I switch this over here, is that gonna be parallel to that tricuspid that's here? No, right? It's gonna be cutting across perpendicular to it. This would be parallel to it. So they had to scooch the heart so that this box was more parallel. Okay, make sense? Yeah, a little bit? Alright, so let's watch it. Once I find my little pointer. Get lost in the sauce when I'm in this extend mode. Nice for the aortic. But now we gotta scooch it so that that box is parallel. It's parallel to our 2 chamber, parallel to our mitral valve there. Then we scooch it over a little bit to be more parallel to our aortic valve. We're not gonna talk about flow propagation yet. All right, we see that, how we're angling different for our color based on how our valves lie in our 2D image. Okay. All right. The color should be, or the flow should mostly be what color in the apical 4 across the mitral valve and tricuspid valve? Red, because they're going towards, right? In the A5, what structure should we visualize? What's the star of the A5? Aortic, and what color should the flow be? Blue, because it's going away. Yeah. Right? So it should be, color should be mostly blue. You might have some aliasing to red around the valve. Sometimes when the valve closes, because that pressure is changing, you'll get a little turbulence around the valve when it's closing. That's why we don't normally measure right at the valve. We go a little higher up or lower, right? But it's normal for you to get a little bit of turbulent flow when the valve is opening and closing, because the leaflets get in the way and they change the direction of those red blood cells. So understanding the colors, you may be given a picture and say, is this color qualifying correctly? Is it normal or abnormal, right? Is the direction of flow normal or abnormal for that valve? Or what is the direction, what should the color be for this valve, etc. All right, so for the 2 chamber, which direction should it be? Red, going up towards, because we got left atria across the mitral to the ventricle, right? So that should be mostly red, going towards, based on our BART map. No. Rabbit. No, BART.
Blew away.
Jesus. Blew away, ran towards BART. Yes. That we never change. Never, ever, ever. Right? In the A3, what's the star of that show?
Aorta.
The aorta again. So what color should the, well, this is mitral valve. But what color should the flow be on the mitral valve?
Right.
Red. And what about on the, aortic valve? Got it, you got it. Alright? Okay, so in our apical views, color Doppler and spectral, we've already looked at that one, so I'm gonna play this one. We got nice PW, I'm getting my P's and C's mixed up today. We know it's more than likely, what tells us that it's CW versus PW?
The windows.
The window, but it's not always the window, depends on the patient, but in normal, it should be the window, it's a giveaway. And on this machine, we got the little two lines, right? And it should tell you, on most machines it'll tell you, on our machine it does, I don't know what they, I think they got a Toshiba. I think I thought that they had Toshiba. I don't really see PW, CW there. But on our machine, it'll tell you over there in the little instrumentation panel icons. But this is a nice indication. What is this part of the cardiac cycle? Systole. Why? Why systole? What is this? What are we evaluating? Semilunar valve? Is this a semilunar valve? Look at your reference picture. You can't see it?
Not really, no.
It's apical 4. This is right heart, left heart. Mitral valve. So is this a semilunar valve?
No, it's a, AV valve.
AV valve, atrioventricular valve. Valve cross the aorta, the atria and the ventricle. Which one? Okay, but it really doesn't matter because they both give you that M configuration, right? So what does this flow represent? All of this is diastole, but what part of diastole?
Passive filling?
All of it's, were you thinking as far as the atrium?
Yeah.
Or I mean, as far as the ventricle?
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
What, we call it something else. This one? What happens initially when the valve opens? This is isovolumic relaxation, and the valve opens, rapid inflow. E wave. Got E to A? Remember? So this is what? What's this part?
Diastasis.
Diastasis. And what's this part? Atrial. We saw that on the MO too, remember? Looks just like the MO, sort of, kind of, but different things being measured. So you got your early fill and your late fill. Your rapid fill, your E wave, and your atrial kick. All those words, right? This is the A wave. This is the E wave. E to A ratio. She did that for you too, right? On the demo? Yeah, a couple measurements. Yeah. That's one you're gonna be responsible for doing. Let's see. You don't like this? You don't wanna play from here? You're confused? Okay. Let's put back up here. A lot of things on the slide. It's probably like, what do you want me to do? Alright, now let's see. We're in our pulse wave. Now we're in our continuous wave. Look how different that looks. Alright, what's that? What was that? Let's go back. That's E to A. I want to show you something. Try to see if I can catch what I want to catch. Nope, too soon. There we go. What's going on here with this continuous one? How do we know it's continuous? Well, our gate changed, right? It's doing everything along this line. That's a pretty decent alignment, wouldn't you say? Coming through those leaflets. What's this? Part of the spectrum. What's this part of the cardiac cycle?
Rapid filling.
Rapid filling, we call it the,
Isovolumic relaxation?
no, we call it the E wave.
Oh, okay.
The E wave, right? The E wave, which is representative of rapid fill, early fill, rapid fill. Then we have our diastasis, not as long on here, before it was like, you know, but we see it here. And then we have our A wave, our atrial kick, that extra blood. What is all this? This is what part of the cardiac cycle? Yeah, kind of overlaps a little with this QRS, doesn't it? Because the electrical and the mechanical is not perfectly aligned. And then this is the, what part of the electrical? Yeah, and this whole thing is,
Ventricular repolarization.
okay, wait a minute, what?
On the EKG, is that
On
what
the
it is?
EKG,
Ventricular repolarization.
okay, so what's going on here? What's all this?
Is that the atrium filling?
It's passively filling.
It's passively filling, that would be here with the atrial kick on the mechanical. This is electrical, this is mechanical, right? So what's going on here doesn't necessarily align with what's going on here.
I mean, like the AV valves are open, so it's
The AV valves are open here.
after. Sorry, I'm getting confused.
I know, that's why I want us to walk through it, because it is confusing. We have, as sonographers, put our sample volume here across the mitral valve. Doesn't matter, we're not at the tips, because we're not doing pulse wave, we're doing continuous wave. It's gonna measure everything from the tip of the apex all the way down to the pulmonary veins if we got flow there, right? Everything, every flow, these are pulmonary veins, right? So all of these flows are gonna be shown. The main ones that we're seeing are here, this modal flow. So this is diastole. There are different components of diastole. The E wave kick that represents the rapid filling phase, the diastasis, which the pressures are decreasing, and then that atrial kick comes in and gives us our A wave. And then the valve closes. Okay, this is a closure line. This is a closure click that you don't always see, but if you're in the valve, you may see it. And this is just turbulent flow during that closure. This is systole for us. The valve has closed. So this is systole, diastole, systole, diastole, systole, diastole. Make sense? So sometimes, remember I said when the valve closes, you get some turbulence around here? But you may also, if this was coming, if this was more aligned this way, we may also be picking up some of the pulmonary venous flow. You gotta be careful, or at least know what you are picking up when you're doing continuous wave. You gotta be aware, right? This is probably just noise. Don't measure the noise, right? Measure the true flow during diastole. This is noise also around the valve when it's closing. No? Uh-huh. Didn't know, now I know. If you don't know, now you know. Okay, all right. Ooh, let's see what else is on here. That's pulmonary venous flow. Let me go back. I'm too slow with these gloves on. This is pulmonary venous flow. We got an S wave and a D wave here. And we'll learn about this a little more later. But look where they have the sample volume. Well done. Down into the pulmonary vein. Are we using PW or CW? PW, because we want it right there. We don't want all this. That'd be noisy, wouldn't it? Hitting that septum. We want PW. And we got nice pulmonary venous flow. Why does it look like this? It's a vein. With respiration. It's not choo-choo, choo-choo. It's not pulsatile. It's not the cardiac cycle, right? So it's that nice venous flow with respiration. So it looks a little different. All right. And then finally, Where's this flow?
Like a scary movie. Some caves or something.
What is this flow? Where's the sample gate? Is it PW or CW? I'm sorry? PB, yep. Look at that pretty, look at those snaps, snap, comes. Right? What part of the cardiac cycle should the aortic valve be open? Yeah, good thing we know that, cause they got, oh, it's in here. Ooh, that's another thing you don't wanna do. You wanna raise that up, you don't, or remove your baseline now to do something, but you can't really see it, right? So we got systole, diastole, so you're not gonna have always just, when the valve closed, that don't mean there's no flow, right? There's still some red blood cells hanging out around there, right? Around the valve that you will pick up with Doppler. Last but not least, now switch it over to, did I catch it? No, shoot. Now what are we doing? Continuous wave where? Aortic valve, going across here. And it kinda close. See all this? This is probably septal movement, flow, it's hitting against there. But we got a little bit of a click, might be the best they could do. Right, I close your line, and we can see the difference. I'm gonna trace that modal flow. Alright. Questions on the flows? If I give you an image, I'm sorry, I'm cold, and it's just this, no this, none of this, and I say, which valve is this representing? Or what flow is this? I probably didn't tell you this about. What flow is this representing? How do you know? What do you do? What's your thought process?
It's retrograde.
It's retrograde.
So it's going away from the transducer. So blood flow's going away from the transducer.
It is. But you don't have a reference picture, so how do you know which profile, oh, that's one clue. Yes, good. Give it away. Don't talk too much. What else? Look at the profile. Look at the shape. Which valves have this shape versus the other shape? Semilunars or atrioventriculars? Yeah, semilunars are parabolic. Atrioventriculars are what? M-shaped. So I know it's either aortic or pulmonic. Now what's my next guess on how to know which one? Velocity. Velocity, we doing normals. What's this velocity-ish? 1.2, something like that, I don't know, you know, me and math. What's that, 1, 2, 3, what's that, 2, 4, 6, oh yeah, 1.2, I was guessing. So if this is roughly 1.2, using my scale, would this be pulmonic flow or aortic flow? There you go. Because we know our normal values. We will. What'd you say?
I haven't pulled up.
There you go. What's pulmonic? You will know this.
0.6 to 0.9.
And that's above that. See that? What that mean I'm gonna give y'all? That kind of stuff without the reference picture. She said you just mean, just mean. But see how you gotta have a system. Okay, what's the scale? Okay, which way is it going? Okay, does it look parabolic? Does it look like a mitral, or M? I won't say mitral, but M, because tricuspid looks like an M also for early field, late field, rapid, atrial kick, whatever the name is that you want to call it. So
You said the EA wave is the M?
Yes,
Okay.
the EA is the M. Just like on M mode, it looks like the M for the anterior leaflet, and they say a W for the posterior, but kind of mirror image, but I never see the W, but anyway. Makes sense? Okay, all right, so that's how we wanna, study. I'll actually probably let y'all out on time. I'm on 21. Y'all wanna finish or y'all wanna go? Y'all wanna go? All right, okay. So we'll go, remind me I'm on slide 21, somewhere, I'll remind myself, I'll write it down. And then we'll finish up Tuesday. And then we'll, I think you guys are good with your views, cause you just got tested on it. And then gosh, we're done. They'll do some Q&A type stuff,
We still
more.
have the virtual quiz next week as well.
Yes, Tuesday, yes, so after that,
And that's over all
Is it
of this,
just,
Doppler included?
Like, so just the one that you're getting.
She said,
The-
hold on, let me say, I'm sorry, we got a question on the floor.
On the schedule, there was already a quiz posted that was gonna be due Friday, Saturday.
That quiz is still on,
Okay.
and it's at home, and it's not open book, and it is proctored with honor lock. That quiz will have everything on it. The one in class is just anatomy recognition, the things like you would have been doing on your PE, including valves. Wall segments, valves, in different views. Like, if this tricuspid, which valves are we seeing in the, RVIT versus the forward chamber versus wherever else we see it, that.
We'll be labeling leaflets.
Yes, leaflets and cusps. So leaflets, cusps, walls, and wall segments. Tuesday, be here or be square.
Should we expect
The other quiz is maybe-
Huh?
measurements or velocities on that?
The other one is gonna have everything, measurements, velocities, views, similar to your test, precursor to your test. This extra one is cause y'all didn't wanna do it on your PE. Right? We don't always have that one. So, but I've done it before in the past, but it's kinda taking that pressure off the PE and showing us in class. All right? Good day. That's a good day. Y'all are so quiet now. Y'all used to be, it's just a lot going on. You got the whole physics, everything, it's like
That's a
midterm.
lot.
It's midterm. What week is this?
It's
7th?
midterm.
Yeah,
Next week is midterm.
Yeah, it's midterm, so I get it. I get it. I like when y'all play along, but it's okay. Y'all did good. Y'all did good.